We are live. Uh, Welcome to the Anyone Can Farm live chat, Tuesday night edition. I'm your host, Mark, coming to you from Marion, Michigan, Baker's Green Acres in Marion, Michigan. Tuesday, what a day. Had a great day here. Let's see, for posterity's sake, let's say today is September 13th. 2022. And oh boy, what a day here. I had another day of chicken butchering. Yeah, we kind of thought we were done with our Tuesdays, and we thought we'd just be on straight Fridays. But a lady called that is a regular customer of ours, and her birds were kind of big, and she had 100 of them. So we opened up a day, and it was surprising today. We had a very small crew. It was just me and the two boys, Rachel and Jill. And we had 100 birds, but they were all the same group. And we ripped through them in 2.5 hours, and there was 95 of them. We didn't have any helpers. A lot of times we have helpers, that are with us. We didn't have any trainees. So it was just our people, and everybody just puts their head down and goes to it. And there wasn't a lot of talking. There wasn't any music going. There was none of that stuff. No fun. But when we finished up, I went in and I said, where's Mom? Well, she's up getting lunch ready. Whoa, that was quick, I says. All right, so we got Inga with us tonight, and we got Off Grid with Dave and Sonia. All right. Cool. So we had nice weather here today too, which was good, really good for a change. We've had a little bit of rain. We've had a couple of days that have been pretty rainy, and I'm not complaining a bit. I have not locked horns with the weather this year at all. I have gotten what I need to get done, and just make it undercover for lunch, and all of a sudden, boom, cloud burst. And that's what happened this time. I got all my hay in, and then whammo, we got about 3 inches of rain. So I'm glad for it. The fields like it. Everybody's happy and healthy. Cows are doing well. Everybody's doing good. I am done with my hay for the year, which is a big relief. Other things that are happening around here. Rachel's getting a new job. We found that out today. Hello, Belva. Which is kind of a shocker but she's getting to that age where she doesn't like to be around here all the time. So it's okay. It's okay. She's going to be working at Ebel's. And so I go there all the time. So I'll be able to see her. So that's kind of nice. If you guys want to see her, she's working in the basement at their coffee bar. So I think that's where they start people when they're working over at the main store. So anyway, it's a good job. And I like that family. So I know that they'll treat my daughter good. So I appreciate that. Let's see what else. Oh, I got the Jeep back from John Spears. He's had it for about a week. They had some things that they had to do on it. It needed a water pump, and it needed complete brakes, right? Didn't really need them because I'm not driving it on the road really much. And, but I thought, let's build this little Jeep so it's dependable, and, we're not going to get stranded with it at all. So little by little, I've been sending it in to Spears Automotive to have things done here and there. So it had the water pump done and the brakes done, and that was it. Next thing, we're going to do a carburetor on it. I think we might not. Hello, John. We might not, because I got my book out, and this is part of what I'm talking about tonight. This is my repair manual for Jeep CJ 49 through 86. Mine is a 57. So I got this years ago when I got the Jeep. I've had the Jeep for 20 years now. It's a 1957, and it's in exceptional shape. It wouldn't be in that shape if it had originated here in Michigan, because in Michigan they salt the roads, and we also have just a lot of humidity. So it has actually gotten quite a bit of rust on it since I got here. So it's something I need to stay after and keep it, inside all the time, which I'm pretty good at that. I don't let it sit out in the rain. It doesn't have a top on it, so if I let it sit in the rain, the seats get soaked. So that was nice. The Jeep is back. I depend on that little Jeep for a lot of things around here, and so I am very thankful to Spears Automotive in Cadillac for their excellent service and good smiles and stuff. Good folks over there. If you need a used car, that's the place to go. They keep the prices low. Anyway, we're working on some things. It's kind of funny how when this tribe mentality, when you are working with people in a tribe mentality, you're not competing with them. You want to see them do well. So to a fault, like when, what do you think about that place? Oh, hey, they're the greatest. And sometimes it can sound kind of like gratuitous, but I think people kind of live up to what you expect. And if we all are working together as a tribe, then we want to do well for our other tribe people. That's my thought on the whole tribe. Actually, it's not a thought. That's just reality. That's how it is. Okay, so tonight, but the Jeep. Cadillac is 22 miles away from my house. Now, the Jeep does not have a plate on it, does not have taillights, does not have a horn, does not have headlights. None of that stuff. It's just not working. And I stopped by the gas station as soon as I picked it up, and I got gas. By the way, John, did you put gas in that? Because it took about a gallon of gas. I don't think I sent it to you with that much fuel in it. I don't know. Anyway, I got to fix the gas gauge too. But I could have probably asked John to bring it back, and I'm sure he would have if I asked him to. But I said, no, I'm going to bring in the Pilot because we're taking a little trip, and the Pilot is the car that we're going to be driving down to Maryland on Saturday. We're actually going a day earlier than I thought we were going to go. And so I brought the Pilot in and picked up the Jeep from Aaron, and I drove it home. And I thought, I'm just going to drive it home. I'll just take side roads and it'll be fine. Well, I had to take a main stretch for a while. And when I got on it, it was like 3 p.m, and it was like nobody there. We don't live in a real populated area, super populated. So I get on the McBain Road and I'm coming home, and there's nobody behind me. And the Jeep is running better than it ever has now with brakes and a water pump. It sounds good. But I get it up to 40, and that's it. And I could have pulled off on secondary roads, but I thought, I'm enjoying this ride. So I just stayed on there, and I drove it the whole way home. But today, and this has to do with what we're talking about tonight. I should probably tell you what we're talking about tonight. Our tonight's topic is living the dream, the original American homestead dream, and in parentheses, homestead economics. And tonight's show is sponsored by the Tribe Plus Elite Community, recordings of all workshops, CSA turkeys from Bakers, and from CSA turkeys from Baker's Green Acres. Okay, so the Tribe Plus is if you did put 5 gallons in it. Thank you. I don't know why you did that, but That was nice. It's a 10-gallon tank, so he gave me half a tank. All right. I thought, because I went to the gas station and I was using the credit card, and it was ding ding and it was full. So it took like $3.20 worth of fuel and it was overflowing. So yeah, next time you see it there, the gas gauge will be working. It's one wire, but it's under the front seat. So I have to unbolt the front seat, take it out, and hook up one wire to the top of the gas tank, and then it's working. Yeah. All right. So we want to talk about living the dream. And you know how sometimes people say, "Oh, how you doing?" "Oh, man, living the dream, living the dream." And you kind of say that. And sometimes people say that tongue in cheek when they're just getting through, and they're just getting through and just making it to 4:30, just making it to the end of the day. And I know very well what that is like. I did that for 20 years in the military, and I worked for Lockheed Airplane Company for 5 years. That was my first real job as an aircraft mechanic after I got out of school. And then prior to that, I worked for fuel companies and I worked for gas stations. And I've always had a job ever since I was about 15. I've had a full-time I've always been employed, whether I was mowing lawns for somebody or I've always been doing something. And then when I was in the service, most of the time I had a part-time job. It was very common for Air Force personnel to do that because, there's a bowling alley on base. So they need people at the bowling alley. And, they're all part-time slots. And if you're working full-time for the Air Force during the day, it makes sense that you work part-time in the evening, unless you are going to school or watching Oprah or something. It's very common that people have two jobs because the military doesn't really pay real great. And your whole, you're in this community of other people in the military, and the outside world is kind of the outside world that you lose touch with after a while. And you think, well, if I want to get ahead here, I can work a part-time job and it gives me a car payment so I could have a real nice car. Guys would do that. So they'd be working a part-time job for a car. I never did that because I never saw, my parents used to preach to us that cars are a liability. They're just transportation, right? And here I have this little Jeep that is kind of my little, little hobby. It is kind of a hobby. I suppose I could get by with like a Gator or even just an old pickup truck, but I have this. So, let's see. How do I want to go with this? Living the dream. I had a regular job like everybody else, although it was in the military. So I guess it's not quite as regular as everybody else, and you're just slugging through, working to Friday, and then bigger than that, you're working to your D-Rose, let's say. D-Rose is when you're overseas. Your D-Rose is date, return, overseas, D-Rose. So you're thinking, oh man, I've only got, 2 months to go. And then I'm going back to the world. They call it the world. So you're always going, working, slugging through to something. But homesteading does not have to be that way. As a matter of fact, if it is that way, then either something's wrong. Your attitude towards it is wrong, or you're doing it incorrectly, or you're just new and making a lot of dumb mistakes, or is there really a dumb mistake? I don't know. You're making mistakes due to your ignorance and your novice status at homesteading. And I say that because living the dream for me is I fall asleep at night, and I am not kidding, unless there's something else going on, some other problem going on, which those happen. You have family things that happen. You have bad dreams. You have things do happen. I'm not saying it's not like that all the time. I have occasionally I have I don't know. I don't know what it is. Seems like something like a depression or something will set in. Nobody really knows. I just get a little cranky or whatever. Don't sleep quite as well. I think about things, and that happens. But the majority of the time, I am living the dream. I fall asleep at night thinking about what I got done that day, who did what, how people are doing, because the homestead is a training ground for your children. So this is a place where you detail your children to do things, and you watch them do those things, and you see how they become, how they become older children and then young adults and so on. And then I think about, well, what am I going to do tomorrow? And I usually fall asleep thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow. And when I first started doing this, things like, okay, I don't think that I started homesteading necessarily when I bought a certain piece of property. I believe that I was homesteading. I had that homesteading mentality at some point in my stay at Loring Air Force Base, right? There was a certain, I was there for 7 years, and there was a certain time when I just like, okay, I don't think I'm going back overseas. My son was like maybe 6, and it was just me and him at that time. He was 10 when I got married to Jill, if you want to hear some of the good straight poop. But that prevented me from doing some of the things that I would have probably done. And I took on this mentality of I want to make the best of everything that I had. So we didn't necessarily homestead like I'm doing now, but there was an incident that happened with my TV, and I didn't have a TV, but my father thought that we should have one, so he bought one for us. And then I always felt guilty about the TV because it was just junk all the time, even then. And the TV flashed and went off, and I took it into a repair center, and the guy says, well, that TV's not going to work again. So that was the end of that. That was the end of the TV. I just said goodbye with the TV. So that was back then. And then all of a sudden, you have to entertain yourself. And so you find things to do. And those things lead to other things. And those things lead to other things. So here I was in Maine. It was me and Kyle, and we just were looking for stuff to do. I worked a regular job during the day. My Air Force job wasn't a regular job, but it was Air Force job. And in the evening, we'd look for things to do. And we stumbled across many different things because we were outdoorsmen. We like to go hunt, and we like to fish. And I was a big-time scrounger. My whole life, I've been a scrounger. One day, I saw a bunch of stuff get thrown in the dumpster behind the commissary. That was the back of the commissary faced the back of the building that I worked in. And I was sitting there I was working on something, and I'm looking out the window, and I saw this guy dump this stuff. And I went over there after work. This is Maine, and by the time I get off work, it's dark. So I go over there, and there was a whole bunch of canned goods in there that were dent and bent. And so I hauled them all out. And I think I've told this story before. I was going to just use them for bait because we used to hunt bears up there, and we'd put bait out, and the bears would come in. It's not too good, and then you just shoot them. I never did shoot one, but it was fun to do. And but a lot of this food was too good to give to the bears. And Kyle and I, every single night, went dumpster diving. And we did not just dive in that dumpster. We dived in like 4 or 5 other dumpsters on base. It was just like a ritual every night. And I'd start saving up food. And then I start sharing food, and people would share stuff with me. And it just kind of went. And then we'd find broken equipment in dumpsters, and we'd bring it back to our garage and we'd fix it. We were always doing something. And then I started learning about food preservation, honestly. And we would go out and get corn, bring it in, parboil it, take it off or freeze it, whatever. It's just like sufficiency. We were learning to be self-sufficient. And it was that homestead mindset. And then I moved from there, moved out, the base closed. We moved our stuff. I had a trailer that I had purchased, and we totally reconditioned it, new tires, everything, straightened it out, put a new deck in it, put our tools in it and all of our venturing equipment, and headed off to Montana to my next base. And a year after that is when I met Jill, and voila, the rest is history. We had a house in town, but we always took off out of town. And then we said one time, why do we even live in town? Why don't we live out of town? And because both of us didn't really like living in town. So we moved out of town, and we bought this 13-acre farm, and boom, that was it. That was it. We had a big garden. We had our own chickens. We had our own pigs. Eventually we got steers, eventually learned butchering, and on and on and on it has gone. When I got here, when I think of the lack of skills I had when I got here in 2004, I think we weren't really very self-sufficient out there. But I don't know. I just wasn't taking it all that seriously. It was sort of like a hobby. It was what I did instead of a part-time job. Okay. Now, okay, I'm here. I worked for a year when I got here. I worked off farm, and then I found out I could not do both. I couldn't. It was too much here. And so I let the job go, and I came here full time. And now when someone says to me, how's it going? I am living the dream. And I can see when I say I am living the dream, I am being completely truthful to you. I am enthused to get up in the morning. I come out, drink a little coffee, go for a plunge in the pool. And when I come out, I'm ready to go. I am just ready to go. All right. Okay. The second part is the original American homestead dream. What is this? This is Americana at its best. If you are in other countries, let's say that you live in India, and you say, I'm going to take up a piece of land and I'm going to build me a house. No, you're not. You're not going to do that. It's probably not going to happen. This is one of the places where you can do that. We feel a lot of times like we are overregulated. It's good. We need to push back on the parasite class. However, we can do just a lot of things, and nobody really even is concerned with what we're doing. Nobody knows what you're doing. Nobody really cares what you're doing, because we have a very big country. A lot of our states are not that populated. I'm in one that is, it's probably middle of the road, but in the area that I live, it's not that populated. It's probably more populated than I would like, but there are reasons why we picked it. Why is it a dream? It's a dream because you can take up a piece of land, you can put your blood, sweat, and tears into that piece of land, create something that suits you as far as a living environment, and you can start to make a gain off of that. You can start, and then you can keep pressing, and then someday you're just not going to be able to work downtown and run your homestead. You just can't do it unless you want your job downtown. Now, it does make sense in today's society to keep your job, keep your day job, like my son, two of them, they're firemen. Actually, they're working on the same shift. They work 48 on and 96 off. So 48 on, they're there for 2 days straight. And then when they're off, if they have a homestead, well, they can pour a lot of time into that. And then the dollars that they're making, they can pour those dollars into the infrastructure of the farm. Will they get paid back? Oh, of course they will. If your dollars go into fencing and then you're grazing cattle out there, your cattle are going to turn that grass into beef and fat. And then that's going to go in your freezer at first. And then until you expand your operation, and let's say you're feeding out 6 of them a year, you can't eat 6 of them a year. So you're going to have to sell some of them. And that will pay, for other things that you need on the homestead. So you not only have your job that's generating dollars and possibly insurance if you need that, but you have your piece of property where you live, and you can put effort into that. You can focus your children on that because they do need to be trained to how to work, have a work ethic, and all those things. And it's really nice to do that on a farm environment around animals and around plants and vegetables. That's a very good place for them to be. Like, let's say that your part-time job is sawing logs and you've got a 5-year-old son. I don't know if I'd want to turn a 5-year-old loose with a mean Husqvarna, chainsaw. But there is always some function in the environment, the homestead environment, that a child can be involved. Whether it's just going out with mom and getting eggs, it's still, it's involvement. It's a little bit more intense than, say, making their bed. My kids now, my 11 and 13-year-old that are home, and my 16-year-old daughter, they are charged with unbelievable tasks. And I figure if they fail, they fail. But if they overcome and they get it done, then they've reached the next level. I expect failure sometimes, but we don't get that all the time. Sometimes, majority of the time, we're getting victories. I'm not asking them to do brain surgery on the dog, anything like that. It's just, things that we do around here, carpentry things, and we actually cut a lot of wood around here. So, and butchering things, and fencing things, and feeding things, and plumbing things. We do a lot of things. So, I made some notes about the American dream. What is it exactly? Is it the place? Is the homestead the place? I'd have to say yes, it is. But that's not really the gist of it. You could say, well, this is the Baker homestead right here. We've been homesteading this place since 2004, and we've expanded it. And now our children are helping us with it. And maybe some of our children will come back to the homestead as adults and raise their family here. There's enough room. I'm fine with that. I'm glad. I would welcome that. I'd like to create a little community of family around me. That would really be neat. You can't make that happen. It has to be a decision that they want to make. But just so long as they know that I'm okay with it, then maybe it will spark their curiosity. I mean, they've all heard it. It's just no one's quite pulled the trigger on it. But what else is it? I wrote here, not a place, and then I put a parentheses there, and I said, not necessarily a place. I would say more, it is an attitude, right? The homesteader's attitude. And maybe somebody that's looking at this says, well, I want to live. Let's say you come to Baker's Green Acres and you say, I want to live like that. That guy's got an intention to his life. He is happy with what he's doing. He's well adjusted. I wasn't well adjusted at first. Honestly, when I first got out of the military, it took me several years to adjust. And it's not like I intentionally stayed home. I intentionally did not go anyplace else because I was not getting along. I wasn't playing very well with the other children. I had a tendency to get a little irritated, and I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to say anything that would have hurt anybody's little feelings out there. But I stayed home a lot, until I could adjust, I guess. And so it was good. That was good for me. But the homestead is more of an attitude, I would say. It is more of an attitude. And the attitude is, I want to be in control, right? If I go to work for a company, let's say, and then I live in a housing area, like a HOA, housing, whatever it is, HOA, housing, whatever it is. But, like these housing communities, right? Gated communities, or just neighborhood, house. And people do that because they're at work most of the day. They come home, house is air conditioned or heated, and they eat. Maybe the wife works too, and they kind of pass. You lose control, I think. Now, I think you get that job downtown, and as someone who's come out of the military, you're very well trained, very well disciplined. You can fit into a chain of command hierarchy quite well. You can be paid. You can be paid very well. And a lot of guys say, "Ooh, I've been in the military for all these years, and I've been making a whole $2,500 a month, and now I'm going to go to work for some company, and I'm going to get considerably," and they jump on that. In my case, I wanted to exercise my creativity. One of the things that killed my spirit within the military, and would be at other places too, is, hey, why don't we do it this way? This would be a better way to do it. And it was like, no, this is the way we do it. And you'd actually, you'd irritate people by saying, maybe we ought to, that was a pain to a lot of people. And I can kind of see that now, because you're young and you have great ideas about, hey, we could do this better. But the military system does produce quite well, and they do get the mission done. And so I understand why I did irritate folks sometimes by saying, hey, maybe we ought to do it this way. But I wanted that when I came out. I wanted to be able to express my creativity and my love of other things beside just what I was supposed to be working on. I wanted to work on other stuff too. Okay, so in the homesteading world, you have as much or as little control as you want. You may just say, well, I'm a homesteader right now, and the only control I want is I want to have a 10 by 10 garden out here, but I'm a homesteader. Okay, that's all right. You can be a homesteader if you want on a 10 by, you 5 by 5. You can do buckets if you want. You can't. There's no threshold to say, oh, well, that guy's a real homesteader. No, there isn't any of that. Homesteading, I believe, is mostly here. You might not have the piece of property that fits in with your plan that's here yet. But that's now. You still have your day job, and you're still looking and maybe gonna bid from your day job to someplace else that's closer to a rural community that you could commute a little bit. You got to do what you got to do. Nobody really hands it to you. All right. But along the lines of control and you being in control as the homesteader, it's sort of like if you have a group of men that work for you and you just say, I'm in charge here, and you just yell, but you don't really know how to do that. Are you really in charge? And how much control do you have? As a junior NCO, right, or junior supervisor, let's say, you're just kind of, you're just feeling your way into leadership of people, and being able to instruct others how to do stuff. It takes time before you can say, well, no, I'm in charge, and I'm in charge because I know how to do this, and I know how to manage you guys. And your attitude, if you keep it up, you're out of here. It takes a while before you really learn how to handle that. Likewise, as the homesteader, you can say, I'm in charge of my food, but can you do it? Can you do it? You got to be honest with yourself. We're going to get into that. We're going to be talking about truth here in a minute. You have to be honest with yourself. I grow my own food. Do you really? It's pretty easy to say that, but there's this pretty steep learning curve with all these things. Yeah, I got my own beef, my own pork, my own chicken. I even butcher them all myself. Some guys do. Some guys do. I know several throughout the country that do, like we do, but it's not a one-day thing. It's not, okay, I'm going to be a homesteader and I'm going to take control of my food situation. You might take control of your green beans the first year, and your potatoes, and maybe some laying chickens. That would be a good bite in your first year, or maybe a little more. I mean, depending on who it is, and how aggressive you are towards this. I smell something burning, but I also hear somebody playing piano too. So she's closer to the stove than I am, so should be all right. All right. So what keeps you from complete control of your food? It is your skill level, right? Your skill level. So being in charge, right, of a group of men, a crew, if you don't have the skill level, you can't be in charge. If you don't know how to do this stuff, you can't be in charge, right? Who is it that is controlling your skill level? You control your skill level. Here's an example. My Jeep, right? Got it back from Spears Automotive yesterday, downtown Cadillac, and got it home. And John was saying, hey, we need to put a carburetor on that. He says, I was looking at some. They're not too expensive. We need to do that because it's sputtering a little bit. That carburetor's old. And I get to looking at the carburetor. I'm looking at it closely. It's old, all right. It's 65 years old. And it's got tool marks all over it, and it's been adjusted. And you can see where somebody banged on the side if they thought the float was hung up and they banged on the side. And but I had given a lecture to my 13-year-old son, and it went something like this. All right, so he purchased a Yamaha motorcycle. He's 13 years old. He purchased a Yamaha motorcycle. It's a 225, right? So it's got lights on it and blinkers and all that stuff. So it could be street legal, but in this county, if you just have an ORV, off-road vehicle sticker on your thing that you pay for $25, you can drive secondary roads with like a side-by-side or whatever. And so we think that he'll just slap one of those on his motorcycle and he can get off the farm a little bit with it. He can venture out a little bit on his own. He can go to football practice on it. And he's gotten stranded with it 3 times. The first time, I can tell you all these different things. This is really great. First time, he tightened up the chain on it, and there's a cotter pin that goes in the back. There's a bolt that goes through the back axle, or the back axle that goes through and holds the wheel on. And when you tighten that up, you just put a cotter key through it. Well, he just didn't. And I was looking at it and I said, hey, you need a cotter key in this, or this is going to loosen up on you. And he, yeah, okay. I thought he would have done it, but he didn't. And he comes home and he says, chain on my motorcycle loosened up. Somebody drove him home. So I drive down there with him. We bring the cotter key kit. We pull the chain into place and tighten it up. And he puts the cotter key through and he says, yeah, thanks. I said, Jim, that wouldn't have happened if you did what I told you. Yeah, I don't know. See, he wants to just get on it and ride it. And so that left him stranded, and he had to interrupt me, which he doesn't like to do. The next time, he stopped at the playground in town to use the bathroom. He came out, and he had a dead battery. Battery wasn't actually dead. It was the terminals on his battery were loose. And I had said to him, hey, you need to tighten these up. He didn't do it. Right? So I had to go and get him started again. The last time was Sunday. Frank and I it was raining cats and dogs. So we drove downtown. Jill had made some salsa, some really good salsa. And we didn't have any tortilla chips. So I said, we'll go. So me and Frank jumped in the van and shot down to the dollar store and got some tortilla chips. And we're coming back, and I see this guy way, way out in front of us coming our direction. You can hardly see. It's raining so hard with the windshield wipers. I said, look at this poor jerk. Some guy on a motorcycle, and we get close to him. Who is it? It's Jim. And I thought, what is he doing out in this? But he wanted to venture out in the rain with his raincoat on and his helmet and ride in the rain. He wanted to. And so he did. And shortly after he passed us, we didn't see it, but something on there got wet and it died. And so somebody gave him a ride home Sunday. And so then he was like, gee, I don't know if I want to take this out anymore. So this is my point. He was losing, or he had not gained confidence in his ability to maintain a piece of equipment that was hauling him around, right? As a homesteader, we have everything from hand tools to tractors, lawnmowers, four-wheelers, motorcycles, Jeeps, pickup trucks, you name it. if you want an A+ rating in the Baker's Green Acres Homesteading's certification process, you get to put a little star on your forehead right here. You would know how to fix everything, every piece of equipment that's on your farm. You would know how it works. I mean, intimately know how it works. That's if you want an A+ and a super duper A+. Do I? No, I don't. You know why? I don't know anything about the fuel injection pump on my tractor because it's never failed since I've owned it. And that's a bad place to be, because if it does, then it's like, uh-oh, now what? You know, it's not a good place to be. Fortunately, I'm at a place right now where I have a guy in the tribe that fixes farm equipment for a living. That's what he does. So am I going to stop what I'm doing right now and say, I got to learn this system in case this thing fails? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, because in my mind, I'm thinking, if all of a sudden I have no fuel going to the injectors and all three of them aren't working, and I realize that, oh, it's the pump, the diesel fuel pump, then I'm making a phone call. And, you know, Mike Myers is coming to do this. That's how I'm going to deal with that, right? To learn that system, I don't even know how I would do it. I'd probably have to get an injection pump and take it apart, and maybe a manual and all that stuff. So I don't think I would even get a super duper 100% A+ rating. I probably would, but I'm cheating because I can, you know, and it elevates me in your eyes, and that's what's important. But no, you should know how to fix stuff that you use. And if you're going for the A+ rating, and all kidding aside, the A+ rating means nothing, but how do I put this? The confidence in the pieces of equipment that you're using, that if this thing fails, my contingency plan is this. The feeling that you get when you have the redundancy in place and the contingency plan in place is good. You're moving on with confidence that you're going to be able to finish the task, and you know, you'll make it through another day, and with gusto, with pride, with happiness. I hope I'm making sense here. But the skills are in, that is up to you to learn the skills. Now, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can say, well, I'm pretty good with carburetors, but I'm not so good with injection pumps. So I'm going to get a carbureted tractor. I'm going to get a tractor that is gasoline that you put a carburetor on. Okay, that's a good way to go. Rebuilding a carburetor isn't really brain surgery. It may seem like, ooh, splitting the case on a carburetor, I don't know if I should do that. But actually, it's designed with consumable parts inside that you change out. And when you've changed it out, the housing is the most important component, you know. But all the gaskets and the needle and seat valve and bushings on the throttle shaft and things like that, they're all consumable parts that degrade with time and use, and you change them out, and you are what they would call zero timing your carburetor again. So that's another way to do it. Or don't get a tractor at all. You know, get a wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrows are pretty simple. Probably most everybody could put a new wheel on the front of the wheelbarrow. So that's something really to keep in mind. and we can have conversations about equipment. And I think you guys know where I stand on that. I do not like equipment that I have to plug a computer into. Now, I'm doing this right here, and I do this 2 nights a week or 3. Do I know how a computer works? No, I don't. I have no idea how it works. It is magic, actually. If you had told me when I was a 14-year-old boy that someday you're going to be able to talk to people like on a phone, but you'll be able to see them, I'd say, come on, that's the Jetsons, right? That's not going to be. But here we are. All right, so the next thing. So I hope you realize that gaining skills isn't a thing that, okay, I've been homesteading for 3 years. I've got all the skills I need. I'm not going to move any further. I don't think that that's true, because like I said, and I admitted, I don't know how it works here. I know how a lot of the stuff works, probably more than the average bear does, because I've been doing it long enough and just about everything's broken. It's had to be fixed, just about, but not everything. And even today, I had an hour of time before I started, and I was fooling around with the Jeep, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to figure out what's going on with that. And I dug into it, and I had another intake leak that I found. And when I plugged that hose in, it cleaned right up. And then I adjusted the carburetor per the specs in here somewhat, took it for a ride, and it's like a different vehicle. It's like a totally different vehicle. It was sputtering out the back. And I still think I am going to put a new carburetor on it, but I don't even know everything there is to know about the little Willies, and I should. I really should. Okay. So what else can you control? What else can you control? I'm not saying that you have to, but you can. When you are not on the homestead or not in the homestead mentality, you have a tendency to say, when it comes to your recreation or your time off, you have a tendency to say, okay, I'm going to walk through the doors of this place, pay money, right? Take a seat, and then you sit down with your popcorn and say, okay, entertain me. So you've given over your ability to entertain yourself to somebody else. I'm not saying I don't go see movies. I've seen 2 movies since I've lived here. I don't see them much because people irritate me when I'm in the movie theater, and I don't really like the popcorn that much. Plus, it's pretty expensive. But I will go see movies. My kids like to go see movies. I went and saw one of their movies, the Utopia something. I thought it was communism, but anyway. But on the homestead, you can control your own recreation. Maybe not all of it. Maybe you don't want to control all of it. But I have found over the years that I like the things that we do. We will, just for fun, we have a lot of ponds around here, just fun, hook up the boat. I have a 16-foot rowboat, and we'll go to some pond. We'll take a picnic lunch with us, or we'll stop at the store and, splurge on some pops, and we'll go out and put some worms down and catch some fish. It's fun. We're controlling it. We're not going to some stadium and saying, okay, entertain us while we're here, and then totally lose control. You're on your way out and, get in line. Oh, you're coming in, get in line. You want to get some popcorn, get in line. Yeah, I don't really like that. So we have the opportunity to control our recreation, and sometimes you can combine recreation with skills. You can. That's Tribe Day has a lot to do with skills sharing, and it's fun. People are recreating. They're meeting other people. They're in a crowd of like-minded people, and there's kind of a letdown of defenses you feel amongst people that you've known for a long time. I remember people said to me that within a couple of minutes of being at Tribe Day, they felt like they were, maybe it was Sonia that said that, they felt like they were a very familiar place. And that wasn't because of the farm, it was because of the people that are there, right? So you can control that. And along those lines, the fourth point that I had was you can control community, right? The homestead, if you operate it the way we do, and I don't do this as much as I should, because I sometimes find it easier to work alone. I do. When I have something that I just want to get done, or I'm doing a process that I want to study closely, and I want to think, and I want to meditate. Actually, men meditate while they're working. Men are made to work, right? There's definitely male and female roles, and we can cross, right? Somewhat. I mean, I can't have a baby, and there's a lot of other things I can't do, but I can do some stuff. I don't find it meditative to fold clothes. I don't do that. But if I am doing hard work, like cutting wood or building fences, or like some of the stuff I did yesterday, I had to get my motorcycle going, believe it or not. I had to, not big, but I hadn't dug into that motorcycle very much. I didn't really know that much about it. I just, like Jim, I just rode it, and then it stopped running. And so then I had to become intimate with it. I had to find, okay, how do I get this carburetor off? I have no idea. Okay, can't get it from there. I can get it from this side, but I got to take this tank off. I got to take the seat off. I got to take all these lines off, and then I can get the carburetor out. Oh, I don't need to take the carburetor out. Here's a filter. Pulled the filter off, and I couldn't blow through it. Aha! Right. So when I'm doing those things, it's meditative to me. When no one's around to ask questions, and it was just me. Last night I was doing it, and I got her running. But community, you can involve people in your homestead, and we're finding that there's a lot of people that want to be in homesteading and want to be involved in what we're doing. So if we say, hey, would you like to come over and butcher chickens with us? It's just incredible. People say, yes, I'll take a day off work to come butcher chickens with you. Fun. You got to wonder why so many people are wanting to get into homesteading these days. Like, you got to really, it makes you wonder. Is it the upheaval that the country is in? Possibly. Was the country in upheaval when I got into it? I think it's always been. I think there's always a struggle going on, and the struggle has intensified. The fear factor has been turned up about 4 notches. Lately, I've seen where the right side, the conservative side, is doing the same damn thing to their own people. They're actually pointing at the other side and say, you see what these guys are getting ready to do to you? See what they're doing? And I'm pointing the finger back saying, then why aren't you doing something about it? We hired you to do something about it. Why aren't you doing something about it? But they just keep telling us, well, you're going to have IRS agents crawling up the inside of your leg. Don't you know that? And all the discontent with the different law enforcement agencies. The left did that with the cops, and now the right is doing that with the intelligence agencies. So I don't know. I kind of feel like just a good solid dose of apathy towards the whole thing sometimes is very helpful. And pay attention to the things on your homestead that you can actually do something about. You can actually do something about it. I think attitude is everything, and you can get so bound up with all the things that they're saying in the news, our guys, their guys, all that stuff. I mean, I don't know if anything ever really gets solved in the political theater, the theatrics that go on. You know, it seems like they're both kind of working for themselves and not for those that hired them. That's the way it's starting to seem, because I don't see any solutions being worked on. You know, I don't see it. Occasionally they pump something up like, oh, this happened, you hear this happened, this is really great. But then they pump up other things too. I don't know. I've grown a little bit tired of that. Maybe it was because my phone failed on me and I had to just pay attention to the farm. And then we had guests, you know, and we were talking with them, and we're just trying to figure out how to move ahead with our homesteading business and the whole how to pour into the movement in such a way that would be good for everybody. You know, there are people in the United States that are servants of other people. There really are. But there definitely are people that are fakers. They say that they're servants of people, but when you really look at it closely, they're only in it to serve themselves or the entities that they work for. You know, it is pretty obvious. So I don't know. Do you remember Dallas, that show that used to be on Dallas? Well, I was stationed in Japan at the time, and like there was Japanese TV, and you know, it didn't make much. You know, I didn't speak Japanese good enough to really follow what they're doing. Plus, their type of TV was different, but there were videotapes of Dallas that were available, and I probably would not have watched it otherwise, but I did, and I started kind of getting into it. And then all of a sudden, somebody shot JR, and it was, whoa, wow, this is terrible. And people at work were actually talking about the episodes of Dallas, and I kind of felt like, well, I tell you what, I think that it was you know, it was these guys did it, and then somebody say, well, that's a dumb theory. That's not who did that. Well, no, it's a good theory. If you watched episode 4 and 5, you'd know. And then at one point I said, who cares who shot? It's make believe. Who cares who shot him? When you're in homesteading, you're not dealing with the make-believe. It grounds you to 3 things, right? And these are biblical principles. And maybe even before the Bible, these were principles. Now, some people don't dig these things. Some people don't. Some people dig the antithesis to these things. And these 3 things, this is the first thing I wrote here, is we need to analyze the good, the true, and the beautiful. Analyze those things. they're not um, they're not shades, right? Or are they? You could say, well, it's good for you, but not for me. Okay, you could say that. Or, okay, but we do have to analyze what is good. And when we're on the homestead, it's we're faced with it all the time. You know, you're going to get hardware, let's say, for something that you're building. You can buy, grade 3 bolts, so you can buy grade 8 bolts. You might not need the grade 8 bolts, but maybe a grade 5 bolt will do, but a grade 3 is good, grade 5 is better, and grade 8 maybe is the best, right? So there are shades of good, but then there's, well, you could just use wooden dowels. No, that would be no good. That wouldn't for that application. So things are going to either be good or they're going to be not good, right? And we have to make those judgments all the time. No one is forcing you to say something is good that is not good. Like you see in American society. Well, is this deal with Bruce Jenner? I like to use poor old Bruce as an example, but it is kind of one that sticks out in my mind because he was a hero of mine when I was 16. In some circles, if you talk about this situation with Bruce Jenner as though it is stupid, people will not like that. And so you are kind of compelled by society to accept it. Oh, yes, it's wonderful. Yeah, Bruce he looks really good in a dress. And the new figure, stunning. You're compelled because of where you are. Let's say that you're working for IBM and you're at the water and you say, well, that idiot, jerk, fag, jack off, and all that stuff. Somebody may hear that and you wind up in HR. So you're better off as you're drinking your water at the water cooler saying, isn't he heroic? Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. But that's not what happens on the homestead. I mean, it isn't like that. Good is good. And that is a judgment that you have to make. If you just say, well, I don't want to hurt the feelings of these grade 3 bolts, they don't have feelings. That bolt's either going to shear off or it's not, right? If you use a grade 3 and it calls for a grade 8, you're going to be in trouble. And you can say, well, my intentions were good. It doesn't matter. It's not going to work. So the good, the true, right? We deal with truth all the time, right? A lot of the scenarios that we come in contact with on the farm are, it's rough. You might have an animal that you really liked. My cow Moon, she was the second one that we had to put down. I had Rose was our first cow, and she had an infection in one of her teats that spread into her udder, and we could not control it, and we had to put her down. And it was bad. I love that cow. I really loved her. And we had to put her down. And same thing with Moon. The truth is, I really love that cow, but it didn't matter. She had to be put down. She was on her side. She couldn't get up. She was not going to get up. She was scared. And so putting her out of her misery the way I did was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do. I can't lie and tell an untruth and say, oh, she's going to recover, and let her lay there in fear and distress. It wouldn't work. I can lie and say that she's going to be okay. but that's not going to work. No matter how many times I say it, it's not going to work. In society, a lot of times things are, oh, yes, it would be politically incorrect to cancel this program. So let's just fudge the numbers and make it look like people really like this show. You can get away with lying in our society the way it is. You can. Okay, another example of truth on the homestead is if you've mismanaged things and things start to fall down, you can shift the blame, but that's not gonna make it. It's not gonna make it right. What you have to do when you make the mistake, you need to accept it. You need to actually embrace the failure and say, I'm not going to do that again. Right? That was, you're much better off, especially in a family like this, when I make a mistake, if I'm the first one to say, I did that. That was my fault. I'm sorry, you guys. I left that on, or I shouldn't have left that on, or, so you have to deal in the truth about things. In other situations outside the homestead, we've got crazy situations with boys that want to date boys, and we have to ignore, not engage on it, just to avoid flare-ups. People are a little edgy these days, or girls that want to get married to other girls. You can't deal with that on the homestead. I can put boars in with boars, and they're not going to breed. They're not even going to be very happy with each other, right? So we can't deal with the made up reality that people wish was true, but it just ain't true. We can't deal with that. That's kind of okay. And then the last thing is the beautiful, the good, the true, and the beautiful. For every one of these things that I'm talking about, there is an antithesis. There is an antithesis to the good. It's the bad, right? Some people really gravitate towards that. There was a time in my life when I gravitated towards things that weren't good things because I wanted to see what they were. And it looked kind of cool. And some of the people that were doing it looked like they were having fun. So I guess I did gravitate towards some of those things. And, as far as truth goes, I remember at one point saying, what is truth? My truth, your truth? Whose truth are we talking here? You can take that attitude, but it's incorrect, right? And the beautiful. On the homestead, you do find beauty. Many, many places. If you, like I said before about working alone sometimes and meditating, I'll do something and step back and say, hey, that really came out nice. And there's a way better feeling that I get when I look at something that I've done that's turned out pretty nice. I get a way better feeling from that than if I went to some really nice scenic overlook at the Grand Canyon. It's beautiful, but I don't get the same feeling as I do when it's something that I've created. Right? So there is a lot of room on the homestead for the beautiful. And I think that a freshly mowed lawn is beautiful. And nicely weed whacked and a nice campfire and nice lighting and stuff. I think it's beautiful. I do. And I like it. I think a brand new calf that's born is beautiful. I think brand new set of pigs. I think, a whole bunch of chickens that we've just, gone through slaughter and, we see them laying on the table. That's beautiful, I think. And it's there. It's in the eye of the beholder, of course, because some people would say, well, I could see if they were still alive, it'd be beautiful. But no, I kind of like to see them ready to go in the freezer. I think that's beautiful. Okay, so all of these things that I've just talked about, and I'm closing here. I'm winding up. Um, are all part of homestead economics. If you do not focus on the good and the true and the beautiful, your economics are not going to look good. They're not. If you don't focus on the good, true, and the beautiful, you're going to have things happening that are like compounded problems. Instead of fixing something the right way and using good parts, let's say, you're using the wrong parts because they're cheaper and it was the only thing available and you didn't want to drive to town. Well, when that assembly breaks, it can cause breakage of another thing, and it can happen at the most inopportune time. You're on your way to a funeral and you see water spurting out of someplace. And, that's not the time for things to fail. But if you had done it right the first time and used good parts instead of bad parts, used good maintenance practices instead of bad maintenance practices, made good decisions instead of bad decisions, right? Treated people good instead of bad, right? See, good and bad. You can use it in maintenance, in building, in construction, in plumbing, in interpersonal relationships, in the way you treat your kids, all this stuff. If you're always leaning towards the bad, hey, your economics, your homestead economics are going to reflect that. Same thing with truth. If you're not truthful, whether it's truth about how you're spending your money, about where you're spending your money, about what you're doing with your time, you got to be truthful with yourself about that. How you're treating the people around you. You don't want to create a bunch of enemies in the homesteading business because they're going to be there. You want to have allies. You want to be building community all the time. Lack of truth does not help in building community. The beautiful. Beautiful is what people pay for. So when people pull in here and they see the fridge, they open the door, beautiful gallons of milk. Oh, look at this chicken. Look at these pork steaks. Look at all this stuff. These guys really do a great job. It's beautiful. You want beautiful. You want beautiful. And if you don't, your economics are going to show it. Your economics, like what you gained or what your profit and loss, is a scorecard of how you're doing. If you're the greatest homesteader in the world, but you're broke all the time, something's wrong. Something's wrong. I'm not saying that you're going to be, knocking down millions doing this. This was never anything that we saw as, boy, this is a quick way to get to $1 million. I never really wanted $1 million. If it happened, it's not like I'd say, well, gee, I didn't want this. If it happened, and it's not going to just happen, we are making enough gain steadily that I feel like we're in a good place. But I've told you guys that we keep our expectations low. I mean, we focus on, you got a warm bed to sleep in, water's not coming through the roof, I got plenty of food, I got a good group of friends, I got it made. I love my work. I got a Jeep. I got it made. I have it made. I'm really looking forward to when I get off here because there's some canned beef in there that my wife put up, and I raised that beef, and I'm going to eat some of that, and then I'm going to go to bed, and next thing I know, I'll be getting up and doing it all over again and feeling really privileged to have a job like this. All right, let me see what you guys have been saying because I haven't been reading. I've been pontificating. Sometimes when I have something that I'm trying to communicate, I can feel it flowing and it's like, okay, I think I'm communicating it well. I don't know how well I did with this one. I'm not having a real good feeling about this. This would be one that I would probably want to watch and say, and figure out how I communicated this. I am trying to validate, because there are people watching this right now that want to have homesteading as their primary. They want that, and they see the benefits of it, and we talk about it. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to validate that for you. I'm trying to say, yeah, good on you. I wouldn't want to do anything else. I really like what I'm doing. Okay, my wife has told me, man, you really liked it when you were in the Air Force too. There was parts of it that I did like. There's a lot of it that I liked, but I didn't know what I was missing out here. So maybe, if I just sold everything and I moved in under the bridge down the road, maybe I would like that even better, but I don't think so. I really don't think so. All right, let's see what we got here. The Ghost. Stunning is not what comes to mind when I see Bruce in a dress. Always be Bruce to me, even in his face. He's crazy. All right. Oops. All right. Salty Anchor Farm. My husband is retiring from the military, and we're finally living our farming, homesteading dreams. All right. Right on. I'd like to hear more from you. There's quite a few military people in the tribe, which is a real boon for the tribe, because there's a lot of talent within the U.S. military. A lot of talent. Vindicti's with us. My second son was born today. Right on. Keith Sutton's with us. Off the Grid with Dave and Sonia. Tools for the tool chest of life. Right on. Right on. Okay. We are definitely blessed today. Yeah. Yeah, we've got a good thing going in this country. And, you can, if you're not real happy where you're at, you can change it. Bought a never flat tire for my wheelbarrow, $45 and well worth it. Hey, why don't they make something that you can't squirt into a tire and it would harden up, sort of like Great Stuff, only not quite that, not real hard like that. So it'd be kind of pliable a little bit. Why don't they make that? Okay, Off Grid with Dave and Sonia. Tribe people are amazing. It was you, Sonia, that said that. You said you felt comfortable when you came to Tribe Day. Okay, best invention in the world is the never flat wheelbarrow tire. Thanks, Sloan. All right, well, I appreciate everybody coming by. We had a pretty nice crowd tonight. Let's see, was there anything else I needed to brief? Oh, yes, you homesteaders. Check over on the tribe page. I got a call today from one of the tribe members, Adrian Norris, and he's got 8 piglets that he wants to move along, and plus a breeding pair that he needs to move along. And he and his wife are expecting a baby in January, plus they're building a house. And so they want to put a squeeze on the chores that they have to do. So they're going to put pigs on the back burner until they've got their house built on their new homestead. Pretty good. I think you get a pretty good, I don't know, agreement out of him on how to do this. He asked me if I would just take the breeding stock back and then use them, and then he'd take them back in a year and a half. I just I just can't, because I can't bring another breeding family and put it in with my breeding family. So I had to tell him no, I couldn't do it. And I've got plenty of piglets. So that's going to be it for tonight. I appreciate you guys coming by. We will not be doing a consulting call for the Tribe Plus people tomorrow night. We're going to take a week off. Our plan was to go every other week. It's going really well. If you are a member of the Tribe Plus, please stop in on that Zoom call. We're having a pretty good time doing it. I really enjoy it. And this week, for our, let's see, who are we interviewing this week? I don't recall right now. We have somebody that we're interviewing this week on Thursday night. So that'll be pretty good. I'm heading down to Andrews Air Force Base on Saturday. My son is stationed down there, and we're going to head down there to see the air show and then spend a little bit of time with old Sam. And I got a couple friends down there that I haven't seen in a few years. I'm going to hook up with and, just have a little vacay. So we will not be home next Tuesday. And if I am able to do the show from, we're going to camp when we're down there. Or at least a couple of nights we're going to camp, and we might get one night at the base billeting, just so we could be a little bit more presentable driving home. It's still summer down there, so we'll be swimming and stuff. Not that we're not swimming up here, but and I'm not sure exactly when we're going to be back, to be honest with you. It's like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, something like that. We're going to just kind of take it as it comes. Got a skeleton crew here at the farm, but yeah, we'll take it as it comes. But if we have to tell you that there's not going to be a show Tuesday night, you'll get a heads up. All right, I'm going to get going. Sayonara to everybody. Time to dig in. Anyone can farm. Good night now.